Ryan, this is something I'd like to hear actually both you and John speak to, which is what is gained and what is lost by performing an opera in concert as opposed to a full staging.
And John can speak more to this, but my impression of this piece is it's a music-driven opera, and so much of the drama, the character, the mood is represented in the orchestra. And I think what happens I guess a concert rendering allows us to be unencumbered by the stage action and gives the music and John's ingenious and imaginative orchestration a chance to really play a pivotal role in the drama of the piece. I think that was one of my first reasons for wanting to do a concert version of it. Secondly, the music is so breathtaking and evocative that sometimes I think the stage action gets in the way of just listening to what's happening musically, not only the orchestral sounds, but the whole package. And I must mention that of course, I've heard 2 recordings of this, and it's going to be great to hear some of the choral movements done without the sound of flapping pearls and Charleston, etc., and feet, etc. So that'll be an exciting thing too.
Well, yeah, Jim Levine had the idea at various points that one way that he would eventually like to return to this piece would be in concert, because he felt like it would, for just what Ryan said, that listening to the piece would be a help. Certainly, there's a lot of operas where I feel it's hard to hear the piece and also watch the opera. There is Breaks Progress is like that for me. I am so incredibly excited by that music and so devoted to every detail that I've never seen a production that I didn't find was distracting me at the wrong moment, or making me sort of wonder whether that's really what they should be doing. So I think there's always been a role for concert opera.
It's so incredibly vivid, and the brass, I mean, particularly for me, I think the brass writing is stunning, and this vast array of percussion instruments and percussive effects that John employs is stunning and really helps. I mean, I think specifically of the interludes, and when we go into the Valley of Ashes and George Wilson's garage, it has this sort of industrial, mechanical, steely quality to it.
Ryan, as you study the score, what would you say are the real challenges for the singers in this opera?
You know, the great thing about opera is anytime anybody sings, we suddenly become much more sympathetic to them as characters and human beings than they appear in print. Mm-hmm. And I think, especially for Daisy, who I think in the novel can sometimes seem a little shallow and frivolous, perhaps even, the way it's scored, it really brings out, you know, to use the phrase John talked about earlier, the money in her voice, and how Fitzgerald speaks about the contralto tones of her voice. And I think it was interesting to hear you talk. I was wondering if the role had been actually written specifically for Dawn or not. But the way, especially the role of Daisy, the way John writes this, it's rather rangy, and there is this kind of speaky, sultry quality to the middle and low part of the voice, yet at the same time she has to have complete command and agility at the top of the voice. And the other challenge I'd say for all these singers is that it is, of course, in English, and it's a challenge and it's a gift as well, but we want to understand everything. We want it to all be intelligible, and as I also mentioned before, with the orchestra being on stage, there will be some balance issues to contend with that wouldn't perhaps be in the pit, yet at the same time, we're not battling the limitations that staging puts on projection and just the geographic placement of the singers on the stage.
Also, having been seeing the piece now in the reduced orchestration version, a lot of the theatrical issues and problems and questions seem to have been sorted out, and the problem of the distraction of really listening to music while things are going on remain.
You know, it's interesting you mentioned the reduced orchestration. When we started talking about doing this, one of the things I was aware of was that there was this reduced orchestration in the works. And it seemed to me also that this reduced orchestration was going to enable this fantastic opera to perhaps find itself in the mainstream repertoire of some smaller opera companies that couldn't otherwise afford to do it. And it also seemed to me this was the moment for us to do this piece with the full orchestration before it became, and I'm hoping it does, become something that's more of a stable repertoire in many opera companies.
The reduced orchestration is exactly what it is. I'm very glad that Jacques Desjardins did it. It sort of reacquainted me with the piece. But it is sonically a completely different animal, as would have to be. To reduce it enough to make it practical is really pretty radical, as I discovered. You're down to things like one trumpet and one trombone, who are also in the stage band. So many times when you want the biggest sound in the interlude, they are not available.